number one tip to increase your leadership credibility without having to work harder. Because for my experience, after being a leadership coach and an executive advisor for the last 5 years for so many women leaders that are in their senior manager all the way to executive level, what I have found is oftentimes they are really struggling with, how do I stop being interrupted and undermined for my ideas? How do I stop being overlooked because I've delivered all these results, but yet when it comes to promotions, talking about that next level role, I'm not ready yet. So if you're one of those women, then this is a great video for you today, because I'm also going to show you why that keeps happening and what you can do to change that. So for the most women, they think that credibility really comes from delivering flawless results, being the most prepared person in the room. The amount of times I have conversations with my clients around like, okay, I know every single question I could possibly be asked. I've gone over the notes. I know exactly what I'm going to say, and then get into a meeting room and then not have the opportunity to say anything. Oh, it is just painful to watch. And they also end up proving their expertise over and over and over again, because why are you here to share your expertise? And if you're not coming from a traditional background of what in that organization is valued. So for example, I was speaking to a business manager, or a managing director actually, who she was sharing like, I have a really broader business experience. I have done all the general business. I've led more businesses, but the industry and the company that I'm in, they value technical expertise over business knowledge. So she ended up having to prove her expertise over and over and over again before anybody would even listen to her ideas. And if you're doing all of that, but you're still not being taken seriously, well, guess what happens? All your ideas get questioned. You can bring an idea, but it gets poked. So many holes get poked into it before you've even got a chance to get to the outcome of it. All of your decisions get second guessed. Are you sure this is the right one? Well, I don't know if what you're saying is really correct. And then again, when it comes time for promotions, you're the one being told you're not ready just quite yet. So here's why credibility isn't built on competence alone. So this idea that we hold that if I just work hard enough, if I just deliver enough results, then finally someone's going to recognize my expertise, they're going to recognize my value, and I'm going to get that promotion. Doesn't work. It is an old way of doing it, and it likely worked really okay while you were in your individual contributor role, moving into that next level role at that point in time. But let's be honest, we are now in senior levels of leadership where everybody is a high performer. Everyone is delivering results. So what is the difference? Why is it that you are seeing oftentimes your male colleagues get promoted in what seems to be a lot easier? And I've heard the jokes, and well, it's not really a joke, but the sarcasm, like, oh, I guess I went to the wrong bathroom, right? We blame the old boys club, which there is some of that, I'll be honest. And there is a lot that you can still do that is within your own power to do it. So what am I talking about? This is strategic visibility. And strategic visibility means that the senior leaders and your executives see you as someone who shapes the direction, not just executes it, brings solutions to the problems they didn't even know existed, and commands the room with a calm authority without having to be the loudest and the most aggressive. Because I get it. It's not always, we don't want to show up as someone different. We want to lead that is still close to how we are as an individual. So what do you do? So here's my number one tip. If you are struggling with gaining the credibility of being seen as that next leader, if you are getting undercut in terms and second guessed on your decisions, here's the number one tip I have for you today. Stop waiting to be invited into those strategic conversations. You start creating them instead. And what does that look like? Because you're like, oh my God, like if I'm not even invited, how do I even start doing them? Well, really, there's some really simple steps that you can take. you can start with your one-on-ones. So when you're in your one-on-one with your manager, your boss, your leader, don't just use it as a status update. This is a common mistake that each and every one of my clients has done so often, and so many of the women that I've spoken to over the past 5 years, where they're like, oh, well, I got this done and I'm taking care of this, and oh, well, I'm following up with that and that. Well, what you're doing is you're giving status updates. You're running down your to-do list and going like, well, I checked these off and I didn't check those off, which really, is it really interesting? Because what is interesting and what is important for your leaders is that, hey, what are the outcomes and results that you're driving? So start talking in terms of outcomes and results, and then if they want more details, you can share some of the activity you're doing. We're not going to be talking about status updates. We want to talk about in a business case format, in what is the outcome that I'm driving, and here's what it looks like. This is the impact. You share insights on what is coming, not just what's been done, right? So here's what I see in the next 6 months. The trend is leaning towards that we need to address the market in X, Y, and Z. Here's what my plan is, and that's how we're going to do it. Again, because you're sharing a value, you are showcasing that you were looking forward. And to start positioning your work, rather than, again, as the task completion, you want to start positioning as like, hey, this is the business impact of what I have been doing. Now, one of my clients, when we started working together, she's like, oh my God, like I've got a huge team and I'm like responsible for all of this entire process within the organization. And I'm just like, when I talk to my boss, like I've got updates as to like, okay, we're on time with these ones. We're too late on these ones. We're missing it on that one. My team's not doing this. And at one point she's like, yeah, but I'm responsible for like over 500 million in business and new sales. I was like, excuse me? Why are we not talking about that impact? Why aren't we talking about when your teams don't underperform, the impact that is felt throughout the rest of the business is immediate. So when we started shifting how she spoke about what she was responsible for and what results she was creating, she was able to directly tie that and move from being like, oh, well, she's a great manager. She's really good. Like she's got her teams going, but she's not really ready for a leadership role, into going like, holy shit. Oh, sorry, bleep that out if you've got kids around you. But oh my goodness, like it is time for her to move into more responsibility. And we also need to be aware that if she leaves, we have a big gap that we don't know how to fill. Because all of a sudden she was becoming someone that is really vitally important to the success of keeping the business afloat. So when you do this consistently, when you stop waiting for those strategic conversations and being in those invitations, but you start creating them, you stop being seen as the person who gets things done, and you start being seen as the person that they need in the room to make decisions. But here is the problem. Most women don't know how to do this without feeling like it's kind of forced. It's like, oh, I'm playing a political game, or like at times even worse, because especially if you are a type that wants to stay humble and wants to wait for your results to speak for themselves, it really feels like you're being really braggadocious. So what happens is you don't know what to say in those moments, how to position your work strategically, or even how to get invited into the rooms where those decisions are made. And that's exactly what I help my clients fix inside the Leadership Accelerator. And this is a 6-month container where you shift from being this reliable executor who's constantly overlooked to becoming that indispensable strategic partner who commands the room with a calm, unshakable power without having to overwork or carrying your team's chaos. Because the results that my clients are getting is absolutely phenomenal. One woman has reclaimed over 20 plus hours a week. She has evenings, she has weekends to herself, and she has the time that she is now being positioned so that she moves into those executive level roles. So if this is something that you're interested in, then let's have a conversation. I'm going to invite you to book a free strategy call. If you're looking to do that, then I want you to comment below and tell me, hey, like I'm ready for this. Because let's be honest, if you keep waiting, that window, that promotion window is going to pass you by once again. And I've spoken to too many women that I follow up with, and I'm talking to them in 6 months or a year later, and they're still exactly where they were in the exact same frustrations. And they're like, Kim, I don't know what to do. So if this is something that is hitting home for you, then know that this is your first step. The first step is having a conversation together so that we can pinpoint exactly what is working for you, but also what isn't, and how in creating your own personalized plan to fix that. And if you're thinking like, oh my goodness, a call, that's just a step too far, then I have a really great in between for you. And that is to grab my Boardroom Whisper checklist, because that is going to show you really quickly in a short, I think it's like a 5 or 6 page PDF, that is going to walk you through how to start showing up differently and getting more recognition and building the credibility and authority inside your meetings. So if you want to grab access to that, then comment the word checklist, and I will make sure I get that over to you as well. All right. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this today. And if you feel like, hey, this was so great, and you know another woman leader who really could use some support in her leadership, then feel free to share this video with her. And just to recap this, the number one tip for you to increase your leadership credibility without you having to work harder is to start creating those strategic conversations for yourself. And you can do this within your one-on-ones. You do this by making sure you're talking in terms of outcomes and results and the business impact that you deliver, not the task that you've been able to complete. All right, we'll catch you again the next time.